Welcome aboard to Simple Reviews, or whatever this series is going to be called. And today we're going to be reviewing the Midland WR-120 weather radio. And it's a weather radio. This is your basic Midland WR-120 weather radio. It receives your average weather radio bands from channel 1 to 7 or from 162.400 to 162.550. It's a pretty basic weather radio. It of course comes with a power adapter. That's a power adapter. Pretty much a basic power adapter you expect from a device. And this is the Midland WR-120 weather radio, the main unit. It consists of a simple LCD screen with a bunch of icons on the top, your directional buttons, which you probably call D-pad, your 4 buttons, your volume up and down, and menu and select button, and the weather and snooze. For the weather and snooze, you can actually press that button to get the weather, or when your alarm is going off, you can actually also press it to silent the alarm and get the weather. And at the same time, you could actually also press it to snooze your alarm clock that you set on here. We're going to get to that in a minute. So this weather radio does decode SAME headers, specific area message encoding. That's why you've got the warning, watch, and advisory light. And it will actually display the message on the weather radio screen. Like if it's tornado warning or hurricane warning, it will display it. On the side we have it's a switch here, but this switch does not turn on and off the radio itself. It turns on and off the weather radio part, so like the tuner, I guess. It probably turns the tuner on and off. So for example, you see here, you hear it's static. Well, weather radio station should be coming in, but we'll get to that in a minute too. And if you turn this off, no weather, and you cannot actually turn the radio back on. So this is actually a switch that some people have been complaining about this switch as well, just in case, like if you ever accidentally hit the switch, you probably wouldn't want to accidentally hit the switch to the off position. So if you want to receive alerts, if you want to hear the weather, this weather radio is essentially useless if it's in the off, if this switch is in the off position. So and it even says on here, I highly recommend it to put this switch in the on position so you can receive alerts and you can listen to weather radio. On the other side, there's actually nothing much. On the back, we actually have these flip things. Maybe I should turn that off so I don't press it automatically. See, that switch might be useful if you're like moving the weather radio around and you don't want to press something automatically. Or one time I almost dropped this radio because I was going down the stairs with it, and like an alert came through, and I'm like, oh my god, I almost dropped it. But anyway, so these are your basic average flip-ups. They make the weather radio stand a little higher or taller. Not taller, but it like slants the weather radio up a little this way, and you can have it flat on the ground. You also have these things to put like screws in or anything, but you can actually hang this weather radio up on the wall, and like you can actually you wouldn't need 2 nails or 2 screws, and you just put it on the wall like that and put it down. I did that one time, and you might have actually seen it on YouTube videos, but it was like with like pins. But you would want to use this with nails or screws. Make sure it's sturdy, because this weather radio goes about for around $40. One time I had it, maybe at least $50, but it's around the $40 to $50 Canadian mark. So I'm referencing Canadian prices, but I also have some hints for United States. I mean, like, might be a little bit less in the United States or more. We'll have to check that. But we're reviewing the weather radio. Over here is a public alert and NOAA logo, and actually if you look in the back here, these are your ports: external antenna, cloning port, external alert, and power. So this is where your input, the power brick, will go in, and it will look something like that, and you just put this to the wall to power the radio. This is your external alert, where you can plug in that flashing light that Midland sells separately, and it will actually flash when the radio goes off. And I'm thinking like maybe I should do something to like mod something like that, or make my own or something, but that will probably be in another video if I find a way. This is a cloning port, which is not important really. I don't know, I've never heard anyone use the cloning port on the Midland radio. This is probably something with programming, so you can ignore the cloning port. And I think there was actually a cover over here that came with it, but I lost it. And this is the external antenna, where you can plug in the external antenna that Midland also happens to sell separately too. And if you don't want to use an external antenna, well, no worries, you have a built-in antenna which is clearly visible, and it's actually oscillate, whatever that's called. I have to research more. It's the first episode overall, but it's not that bad. It's kind of sturdy, and goes around and around, like, never really got weak. But sometimes it got weak a few times. I had to tighten it a little bit, but overall it's actually pretty sturdy antenna, and it's not flimsy. It doesn't get flimsy over time, and it's pretty good. And if you want to know how long it is, well, we'll show you how long it is. It's, from here to here, it's that long. I'll get my measuring tape to give you a precise measurement if you really want that. So I'd say about 58 centimeters, or like 22 and a half inches. 22 and a half inches, yeah. So we're gonna get into the interface of this weather radio. So you have your usually standard, if you're not touching anything, you have a time. Oh, I forgot to mention that it takes 3 AA batteries. Yeah, one more thing, that this radio, if the power gets disconnected from these batteries are served as a backup, so if power gets disconnected, or like the power outage, it will run off the AA batteries, which is doing that right now. It's currently doing that right now. Menu, so you can set time. It's basically your average time setting. You can set these 2 digits separately, all the way from 0 to 59, but to change the AM and PM, you actually have to go to 12, and then it works vice versa. If you alarm, setting alarm, you can actually set the alarm off or on. If you set it on, it will give you a prompt to choose the time you want to set your alarm clock to go off. And the alarm clock is actually pretty loud. It goes from the beep beep to the fast beeping. I know there's a name for that, but I don't remember what it was. But it is it's pretty much the same thing as if you were setting the time on the weather radio. We have a set language, and it's pretty basic. You have English, French, and Spanish. So you want to go for English. Location is single, any, or multiple. So multiple is basically where you can set up multiple locations, and you have the same code for the multiple locations you're setting up. You can actually set them individually, and you use the up and down to go from 0 to 9. The single location only uses one of these locations that you have, like this one. I have this on same tree, and to use it on same tree, I'll have to press menu, and it will set it to same tree. So that's why you've got your single location. Usually I'd set it on any, because weather radio enthusiasts here, any location is great for me. What it does, it will only activate when the same header has one of the locations you've set up. The alert type, this is where you want to get to the alert type here. Voice. So if a same header comes through, which is those 3 data bursts, it will sound the loud alarm, which we'll get into in a minute as well, and then it will sound it for 8 seconds unless you press the interrupt, unless you interrupt it with weather or snooze, and then after that it will actually tune in to the radio station it was monitoring, and play the audio from the radio station live. And then once it receives the EOM tone, it will shut off automatically on voice. On tone, when it receives the same header, it will just sound the alarm for, like, I think it's more than 8 seconds, and that's usually meant if you just if you're just gonna go and press the weather and snooze button. So that's what the tone is for. So it's gonna be, if you're not around, if you don't touch it, it's probably gonna be sounding for like a really long time. Display does not sound any alarm, 0 at all, and it will only display the message and the blink, flash the watch the lights, one of the 3 lights below. So I keep it on voice, which is usually kind of the best, because it's cool, it turns on automatically, and it actually lets the station say whatever it wants to say, and then until the station sends the EOM tone, it will turn off automatically. So the alert test, this is where it gets really loud. Yeah, that alert test, without me covering that, it's pretty loud. And from personal experience, I can tell you that I've got woken up by this radio like about 50 times due to a winter storm warning or whatever the heck Environment Canada issues at 4 a.m. in the morning. There's your set channel. So we're gonna pull out the antenna here so we can listen. I'm not really in the best position to be doing this, but I think we might be able to hear the stations a little more.
Cloudy with 60% chance of flurry. Low -6. Saturday.
So that's XMJ 225 in Toronto, and it goes all the way up from 162.400 to 162.550, and yes, you can loop around it. This must be the St. Catherine station. I think I don't know what this is, but something on there. This might be one of the NOAA weather radio stations in Buffalo, or could be this one. But it goes from 162.400 to 162.550. I keep on 162.400 for XMJ 225 in Toronto, which is broadcasting on 162.400 megahertz. Backlight, pretty basic. You have a normal backlight, which whenever you press a button, the backlight will turn on, and then after a few seconds it will turn off, just like what it did right now. Backlight off will keep the backlight off no matter what, so even if an alert goes through, the backlight will be off. And if you leave it on, the backlight will stay on 24/7 no matter what you do until the batteries run dry. So you would want to run the backlight to normal, which if pretty much a very convenient backlight. So if it's there when you need it and not there when you don't need it. The button beeps, well, the button beeps is what I currently have off right now, but by default it is on. That's how they sound like. Usually I keep it off because sometimes annoying, so I keep it off. If you want, it's up to you if you want to have the button on and off. Weekly test, this will actually determine if your weather radio were to go off for a weekly test or not. So to confirm that, you press select, or to confirm on, you press select. Usually you would want to have weekly test on if you want to know that your weather radio, weather radio is working. And if you don't want to get annoyed by weekly test every Wednesday near noon, then you would want to keep that off. And we're back to set time. Now to save all your changes, you press menu and it will say saving, and it saves all your changes into changes. It's a pretty basic radio. It has a little speaker down here. The range is actually alright. It's not that bad, but it also kind of depends on where you're situated. So like right now I'm in my room in the house, and I'm not really in a great place to receive these radio frequencies because I'm like somewhere in my house. I'm actually surprised that this actually kind of received some radio frequency, but that was probably the St. Catherine stations that was receiving nice and clear. But you would want to have this situated somewhere near a window, like every weather radio, to receive frequencies. Of course, the situation will depend on how you feel the weather radio is receiving the frequency, and to make sure that it can encode and decode not encode, but decode the same headers properly and clearly. Overall, this is your basic enthusiast weather radio that every weather radio enthusiast probably has, and if they don't, I mean, like, okay. But it is the WR-120, and this is the basic simple review of the Midland WR-120. I hope this really helped you a lot to choose to buy a Midland WR-120. Overall, this is AKC, and we're signing off, and we'll see you next time.